College football week 2 is in the books. Maybe you're 2-0, maybe you're 0-2. Either way, we have 5 sleepers that are going to help you in your pursuit to win a college fantasy football championship. All right, John Lobb here, the Gridiron Scholar, with me, Matt Hicks, the FF Educator. John, we have selected 5 players, all with less than 30% rostership. Whether you want to call them waiver wire targets, I'm calling them sleepers because we're not just talking about the top guys everybody is talking about here. We're digging in deep here to try to help our viewers with their college fantasy football championships. John, in our last week's episode, we had a ton of questions. Start, sit, CFF in the comments. Feel free to drop those questions in the comments. We'll answer them throughout the week. You also can hit the link to our Discord in the comments, in the episode description, I should say. And you can just jump in there, ask start sit questions all week long as well, and get in on our game day chat. All right, let's start here with Miami of Ohio wide receiver Gage Larrivee. John, rostered in just 7% of leagues.
Matt, you got to follow targets and production. And there's been no one as productive over the first 2 weeks of the season than Gage Larrivee. He's a junior, and he's from southeastern Louisiana at 5'10 and 165 pounds. He has had 12 targets in each of the first 2 games, 16 receptions total, so 8 catches in each game, and he's got over 350 yards receiving, Matt. Here's what's interesting. Ignore this week's opponent. He plays Cincinnati. You cannot leave him on the waiver wire. They're in the MAC conference, and then you get Delaware State, Kent State, Bowling Green. The action begins. You got to go pick up Gage, everyone.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, John. Sometimes you got to look a week ahead, right? It's okay to pick up a guy and leave him on your bench for a week, and then you get ready to get into Maction, John. It's always good to have a high target wide receiver when it gets time for Maction. All right, John, I'm going to stick with wide receivers here, and I'm going to stick with Miami, but I'm going to go down to Florida here, and I want to talk about Colby Young. All right, so Colby Young here, 23% rostered, averaging 18.7 fantasy points per game, and I think the ceiling's actually higher than that, John. Over the first 2 weeks of the season, he's leading the Miami Hurricanes in targets. And under this new offensive coordinator, Tyler Van Dyke looks like he's Tyler Van Dimes again, right? And so if I could get the potential top target in the Miami offense, and I think you're not going to have to spend up for him on the waiver wire either. That's certainly somebody who I'm interested in. And John, you know whose schedule I am interested in? The Hurricanes playing Bethune-Cookman in week 3 and playing Temple in week 4. All right, so Colby Young should be on the field. He should be balling out. He should be having high production. And I think off of this week where, Xavier Respresso had a lot of targets and George had a lot of targets, maybe Colby Young flies under the wire in terms of how much you have to spend on the waivers for him. But he's certainly going to be the top guy that I'm targeting in that offense. So we've started off here with 2 wide receivers, John. How about a quarterback?
Well, Matt, I'm going to go Kaden Salter of Liberty. And you might not have been watching a Liberty game, but this young man has gotten off to a very good start. Liberty's 2-0. Now, they played Bowling Green in New Mexico. But you know what, Matt? If you go down the rest of their schedule, it's not very intimidating either. So it's not like Liberty's got a lot of tough opponents. He has produced 22 and 34 fantasy points in back-to-back games. He has a 4 touchdown to 0 interception ratio. And what I like about him, Matt, he's very athletic, and he's gotten 125 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. So you have a good quarterback. He's young. You have a great schedule coming up. Kaden Salter's a quarterback who's on less than 10% of leagues. Go pick him up off your waiver wire.
All right, John, back to the wide receiver position here, but we're going out west. All right, we're talking about Washington State because Lincoln Victor is a name that I feel needs to be a priority on your waivers this week. He's absolutely going to be a priority on mine. So if you're one of my league mates, please stop watching the video right now. All right. So the Washington State wide receiver, John, he has 18 receptions over the first 2 weeks of the season for the Cougars. That's 10 more receptions than any other player on the team. And John, this is a team that's averaging over the first 2 games 41 passing attempts per game. And that number's not going down once they get to the Pac-12 schedule, right? So 26% rostership, 25.8 fantasy points per game. In week 3, he gets Northern Colorado. And then things will start to get a little bit more difficult. Oregon State. But over the course of the Pac-12 schedule, I'm not going to be afraid to have Lincoln Victor in my lineup consistently. I like the Washington State Cougar wide receiver. And John, to finish out our episode here today, you have a running back for us.
Yes, I'm going to go down to Georgia Tech. And Matt, as CFF fans, you always have to balance volume versus efficiency. If you're looking for volume, Treyvion Cooley, the former Louisville Cardinal running back, you might not be overly impressed. But Matt, he's had 19 carries in 2 games for 145 yards rushing. But the key is 7.6 yards per rush. He's also got 2 receptions for 61 yards, but he scored 4 touchdowns. He's in a running back by committee, so you're going to have to go base it on efficiency. But this team is going to try to win it on the ground. You don't want Hayes King throwing the ball, Matt, a million times. You want to get the ball into the hands of the running backs, right? And they want to stay close. They're going to have to get productivity out of the running game. And why I like Cooley, he's the bigger of the 2 backs, which tells me he's more likely to be the goal line back throughout the season. So go pick up Treyvion Cooley. It's a little bit of a flyer, but he's owned on less than 10% of teams.
There you go. 5 waiver wire priorities, sleepers, all less than 30% rostership. We're digging deep to make sure you can win your fantasy football championships. Make sure to give the video a like. Make sure to subscribe to the Rookie Big Board and drop your college fantasy football questions in the comments. Thanks for checking out this episode of the Rookie Big Board. Look at that. 9 minutes.
Oh my God, that went so I was like,